Okay, the goal with this little video is to teach you how to do your own facility scheduling. I know RecTrac can be a little intimidating, a little confusing, so hopefully this will provide you a step-by-step guide that you can use to do facility scheduling and also something to refer to in the future. There's two main ways that we can do facility scheduling. The first part we're going to focus on is what I would call the facility reservations method. Here's what your basic RecTrac screen looks like. This is your home screen. Everyone should look a little bit different, but you'll have similar functionalities, similar buttons. But like I said, everything is customizable, so it might look a little different. So the first way we're going to do it is through basically what is simply enough called facility reservations. So to get there, you're going to be on daily. You can either click it there, and it changes these top menus, or you can do function, daily processing. So then from there, you're going to click on facility, and the first one is facility reservations. So I have that already in there, because here's where things actually get a little interesting. The first thing that you should know is where this button is. Let's see, let me get there. Internal household. That's going to be where you're going to click for any like internal meetings, anything like that, anything that's going to be a $0 charge, anything that is like class related, meeting related, anything along those lines. The opposite way you could do it is if it's a club sport group or something like that line, they might actually have their own household created in the system. For now, we're not going to go through the process of creating a household, which we've done using this. Instead, we're just going to work with the internal household, but there will be another little how-to video about creating a household, so we'll cover it there. So I'm going to click on the internal household, and you get this fun RecTrac screen, which probably looks like every other RecTrac screen that you've ever seen pretty much. So the main components are, you have this is where you're going to choose the facility, you have the dates, the time, purpose, and we'll start on this side and we'll move on over to the other side. So if you go in this last box right here and right click, you're going to be given the list of every facility in every building. So right now I have it narrowed down by description. If you click along these top rows, that will sort the list. So and you can sort it by location, you can sort it by type. What we're going to do is sort it by type, and we are going to say that we are just looking to book a meeting in the conference room for the next several weeks. So next we move on to the dates. So anytime you see one of these, wait, how about this? Anytime you see one of those, that means it is a pick list. There's a pick list behind it, and it means that you can always right click. So we're going to right click, and we will say that we want this to start next Monday, and then we're going to pick the end date. Same thing, we're going to say we want it to go until this Monday. Here's where you can put the time in. There's no pick list behind this, so you have to type it in, and you have to only use an A, not an AM or a PM. It's either A or P, and you always have to use a 0 if it is a single digit time, like 6 a.m. you can see there. So we'll say we want to make this meeting 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. I usually just tab over, but you can tab over or click. And then purpose, we're going to say RecTrac training. Yeah. So now we come over to this side of things. Here's where you can choose a pattern. Do you want this to be every day? Do you want it to be weekly? If it's every week, is it every 1 week? Is it every other week? If it's every week, which day every week? You can do monthly. or you can do random. Random dates are if there's no pattern to it all. Like maybe you meet on a Monday, and the next week you meet on a Thursday, and then the following week you might meet on a Wednesday, something like that. So we'll say we're going to have this weekly meeting on Mondays. Next thing you need to do is go to add info. All that means is additional info. So there's a lot of boxes on the screen. We only use a couple of them. First one we use is event type. Event type is what helps us get some advanced reporting when we get to the year-end reports. So again, we have this here. So if you right-click, it's an event type, and you'll see a number of different types of events. So they should be organized pretty well. So you're going to find the one that best fits what you're doing. So for this is a PERT meeting, staff training. Hopefully that's most of what you'll be doing. The other one we have to choose affiliation. So this is a PERT internal reservation, but if you're doing it for something else, it might not be. And that is all that we have to do on this page. There's some other things we can do. Those are a little more advanced, and we probably won't be getting to those right now. If you do have any questions about some of the other stuff, definitely don't hesitate to find me and ask me. Alright, so now we'll click OK and select. So once we do that, it brings up all of our reservations, and it says, alright, here are all your reservations. If there was a conflict, it would show up in this column, and it would say the reservation number that it conflicts with. There's not a whole lot of stuff in the system for Mondays at 9 a.m., so luckily it didn't conflict. But if it did conflict, what you could do is you highlight it, change reservation, and you can actually change the day, the time, the location, or anything about that individual occurrence. So this happens to be Memorial Day, so we're not going to meet on that day, so we're going to delete that reservation. Once everything looks good, you would press select. That means this pattern reservation is good to go. There's no conflicts. It's not final yet, but you could, if you wanted to, you could add a couple other reservations in there. The only thing about doing that is that will then put them all under the same reservation number, which makes it a little more difficult to cancel or change or update in bulk. So what I would suggest is you only do one reservation per purpose, if that makes sense. So once we're here at this point, we will click on payment and then process. If you have a printer tied here, you can print it out, but you can email it. These are some of the options that you have here, just like other things. You'd put in your email address. What I usually do is preview. If you want, actually, just backing up a step, if you do email, you can always click on details and you can edit the email. You can edit where it came from. You can edit the message. And you can edit the body. Oops, can't spell. You could attach something as well, but I don't usually email it to myself. So, but you could, if you wanted to, email it to yourself, email it to someone else. I find it easier to preview it, save it, and then email it. So we'll click finish, and we're done. And then your receipt will come up. The receipts are printing a little funny, but you would see the normal receipt, just like you've seen from me from time to time with if you've ever requested something. So that's it for the facility reservation method. Alright, now we're going to take a look at the facility supergrid, which is kind of nice looking, way more intuitive, and will probably be the thing that you use the most often. Alright, so we are back at the main screen. We already did the facility reservations, just the basic method. Now we're going to take a look at this facility supergrid method. I think that this is one of the easiest, most intuitive ways to do things. One of the most intuitive and easy things in all of Trac, and I think that's saying something. So you get to it, you're going to click here, Facility Supergrid. And what it brings you to is this this grid where you have rooms on the left. So the rooms are always going to be right there. Across the top, you're always going to have the date, and you're always going to have the hours and the time. So we'll start with that. So these rooms are set up based on room type. So all of the classrooms are together. All of the multi-use rooms are together. So you can actually adjust that using this pick list right here. So if you want to see all the rooms, that's probably not going to be that helpful, but you could do it. If you want to see just the courts we have, you could do that. If you want to see just the gyms, you could see that. If you want to see the track, you'll see the Trac track. If you want to see the multi-use rooms, you could do that. The bottom one actually changes it based on physical location. So this is athletic facilities. They obviously don't have any multi-use rooms we use. This is the boathouse, K-Center. The Trac is FRC, Sailing Pavilion, TTC, etc., etc. So the cool thing about this is if you are, we'll take a look at classrooms. We'll go back to our example when we're just trying to book a meeting. So you take a look at classrooms. You simply click on the time that you want. And it's always going to default to 1 hour length, but you can drag it around. You can drag it to a different room. You can play around with it. So we'll say, oh, we wanted to make a meeting at noon. You can make it longer just by dragging. If you said, oh, I made a mistake, right click and it goes away. I should have mentioned that over here on the right side, over here, this is where you have the dates. So I always find that the easiest thing to do is use the calendar. So let's go to the 19th, because we got a couple things in there. So you can use the calendar. These buttons here and these buttons here will either skip a month. I'm sorry, those ones are a week in advance, and this one is a day in advance. And you can, of course, play around with these however you want. So, one of the cool things is just by looking at it, you can kind of tell what's booked, what's available. If you want more information on something, all you have to do is hover over it, and it'll tell you what's going on. That's the Trac training session that we booked earlier. This is a lifeguard instructor class. So one of the cool things that you can also do is you can move something around. So say you're like, oh, I need to actually move this till noon. You just drag it to noon. It's going to highlight yellow because you'll see right here, yellow means, oh, that's a change in reservation. It means our current reservation right here says that we got one kind of in the queue, and all you have to do is hit process. Now the other thing to pay attention to is this right here, apply changes to. So this tells us, are we applying the changes just to this one thing, to the entire thing, or do we want to select the dates? So right now it's on individual date, so that's good because it means I don't want to change every meeting at this time. I just want to change this particular one. So in order for this to become final, you have to click process, and we should see the receipt come up. And I fixed the receipts, so this is what they should all look like now. That's what they should all look like. Great. So now I will show you, just so you know, it'll always go back to the date, the current date. So you might have to play around with that. So, and if you really wanted to, you can also change these views. You can go into a daily view, so you can see, is a space booked at all on Mondays, which I don't find very helpful. You can go into the thumbnail view. You can say, is a space booked in June? Again, I don't find that very helpful. So we're gonna run through what it would be like to actually book something. So say we want to book the conference room on Saturday the 10th. The conference room here, we're gonna book it from 10 to 11. So right now that's just kind of sitting there as a placeholder. To actually make the reservation, you can do one of two things. You can double click on it, which is what I prefer to do. Now we're back to the screen again. Remember where we picked the household, so we're going to pick the internal household. And essentially it's this, now we're brought right back into the same screen as we were before, except some of this information has already been pre-populated. So we don't actually have to do that anymore. It's all pre-populated. What we will have to do is fill out this information here. So let's see, we will, oh, that's pre-populated. The only thing it isn't is you have to do the purpose. So test rec track, great. So the reason I like this view a little more is if you wanted to and you knew that this time was available every Saturday, you could once again do the pattern. However, there's some drawbacks to that, and that you won't actually know if there's a conflict until it tries to go through the final step, and it doesn't give you a chance to alter any specific reservations. It'll just basically tell you that it's gonna not make those ones. So then we'll enter our event type. We'll go to make this a per staff meeting. Affiliation is internal. Okay. So then we click on process. And oh look, Mike Lagamarcini just happens to be our user. Process. And here we are again. This is what the receipt looks like. So if I go to tomorrow, I'll see this reservation here. Now, as I said before, if you want to move it, you'll do the same process, and you would click process. If you want to cancel something, all you have to do is click on cancel, or that'll turn red, and then you double click on that. And that was going to cancel it. And you'd process it. I went through that a little quick, so I'll show it to you again. So let's find another reservation. We had one coming up on Monday the 19th. So if I wanted to cancel that, I click on cancel, double click, and process. I sometimes do no print if I don't need a receipt. If you need a receipt, you're going to want to do process. No print processes it. It just doesn't print you a receipt. So I'll process it this time. Go through the steps. There you go. Cancellation. Oops. So the other way that I mentioned you can do it is really essentially the same. You're just click there, then you're going to click on process, and it's actually going to walk you through the steps a little more clearly. Internal household, reservation status. This is internal. This is telling us that this information is required. and then it just brings you back to the same page. That's kind of why I like doing it. One thing you'll notice is it's not going to let me out of here without doing this event type and the affiliation. If I try to, I'm just going to keep getting error messages over and over. So test. So just so you know, if you get to this point and realize, oh, I made a mistake, I need to go back, you can cancel. And it's gonna still be there, it just won't have done anything. If you just want to clear, you said, oh, I'm really not even sure where I left off, you can clear. If you have a bunch in there, you can clear a bunch. Let's take a look. I'm going to go to the calendar and we're going to look at that reservation on the 19th. Actually, we canceled that one. So we had one on the 2nd. So if you wanted to cancel the entire reservation, you click on cancel, double click. You'll see that now this number changes to 14 because you actually are going to clear 14 reservations. And there they all go. If I had gone process, it would have actually canceled all those reservations. So that is the facility supergrid in a nutshell. This is by far the best way to look and see if things are available in the building. You can look on specific dates. It's a little bit difficult to see if things are available over a duration or a long period of time, week to week or month to month, but this will be the best way to start that process. So that's it for how to make a facility reservation. If you have any questions, concerns, please let me know. Thanks.